You know, way back when I first started doing videos, when I started talking about ballistics, I always said I thought it was very important when choosing your handgun caliber and ammunition that you choose something that is good at hard barrier penetration, especially plate glass or automotive glass. Now, a lot of times back then people would say, what kind of tactical bullcrap is that? Thought you didn't go for these type of wild scenarios. Well, you know, I think I've been kind of borne out by recent events that it's a good idea to have a round that can go through a windshield. Now that terrorists are using automobiles as weapons, I think you're going to want to be able to shoot through that windshield and stop someone if they're trying to kill you or groups of other people behind you. So I think it's very important that your round not only can get through a windshield, because a lot of rounds can get through a windshield. What's important is after they get through it, they still have proper trajectory, enough velocity, and enough mass to still do damage when they hit the target on the other side of the windshield. Now, rounds that do that very well are .357 Magnum, 40 Smith & Wesson. If you have a bonded bullet, does very well. .357 SIG does very well, especially if these rounds are like a solid copper, something like that. That does really well. Like the Underwood loadings that use the Lehigh bullets, things like that do extremely well through glass. They maintain their trajectory, they maintain velocity, and they maintain bullet shape. They actually have their full mass when they reach the target. So those are good choices. And like I said, people were always like, well, why would we ever want to shoot into a vehicle? Well, right there, you see now why you might want to. But there's other reasons why you'd want to be able to shoot through glass too. I mean, we don't have to be really short-sighted, and we don't have to pretend like, oh, we're only going to have to, do this, boom, boom, up close, so 9mm or .380 will do fine, because it's always going to be 3 feet in front of us, and there's always going to be one-on-one. No, that's not always going to be the case. You might have to take longer shots. You might have to shoot through barriers, etc. in today's environment. Now, chances are you're not going to shoot anything, because we live in some of the safest times ever. But if you have to, you want to be ready. Now, 9mm, .380, all that'll have you, 38 special, you'll be ready for 98% of all situations. That's true. I'm not going to try to tell you different. But just in case you run into a situation like the guy using a car as a weapon, or the person using a car as a weapon, or some other things, like say you're at the mall, your children are out in the hallway, out in the food court area or whatever, and you're in a business and there's a big piece of plate glass separating you from them. If someone actually starts causing trouble right outside the business here towards the people where your kid's at, do you want to have to run outside and then confront them, or do you want to know you can take them down through that window if you have to? You want to have a good chance of doing that. So there's another time you would need to be able to penetrate hard barriers. Or if they were behind a trash can and you got to shoot through a the little tin body or metal body of the trash can to get them before they get somebody else, you're going to want to have hard barrier penetration. But also, let's say you own a business. We live in a time right now where riots are getting to be very common. Protests turning into riots. We live in the time of Antifa and white supremacists and Black Lives Matter, where things get out of hand. Now, these people are very angry. And I know some people like to say, well, they have good reason to be angry. At least some of them have very good reason to be angry. Well, even if that's true, they don't have a right to take that anger out on innocent people, because they often take that anger out on the wrong people who just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. So if you're a business owner and there's a riot, and then suddenly one of these goons in all black with a mask over their face is running at your business with a Molotov cocktail ready to open your door and throw it in while you're in there, your customers are in there, maybe your family's in there working, are you going to wait for him to get inside before you try to take him down, or are you going to fire a round or two through the window? I know I'd fire a round or two through the window, because I'd rather him drop right out there outside the sidewalk with his bomb than get in my business and fall down with it. So I would want hard barrier penetration there. So there's all kinds of times where you would need hard barrier penetration. And getting back to, and I know I'm saying penetration a lot during this video, and getting back to car windshields, it's not always when you're on the outside and someone else is on the inside, the bad guy's on the inside. What if you're just driving through town, you get stuck in one of these protests, it turns violent, and they decide they're going to take that violence to you. They're going to perform violent acts on you. They're going to harm you. It doesn't even have to be a gun. If a bunch of people with clubs, like a lot of people have been having clubs at their rallies now, decide they're going to drag you out of the car and beat you, 4 or 5 people could easily kill you, even if they didn't mean to. So if they go, let's drag this guy out and beat his ass, are you going to wait until they actually get you outside till you fight, or are you going to pull your gun and say, I'll blow you away through this windshield. Believe me, the one time I've ever had to pull my gun in civilian life in self-defense was from inside of a car. And I said in no uncertain terms, I will shoot your blank ass right through this glass. And I meant it. And it deterred the threat. I didn't have to hurt anybody. And they didn't hurt me. So you could be on the inside of the car. My mother bought a gun for that very reason. She was like, I'm afraid I'm going to get stuck in one of these riots. And my mother is a lefty. She's a far lefty. So she's not a right-winger, but she's afraid of groups like Black Lives Matter and Antifa, not because she's racist, but because she knows they don't get too picky about their targets sometime, and they're going to see her and they're going to be like, there's a Trump voter because she's an old Southern white woman. And even though she's not, they're not going to care. So she wanted to be able to protect herself if she's ever in that type of a situation. So there are plenty of reasons why your gun should be able to penetrate hard barriers, especially glass. So don't be short-sighted when you choose your caliber. Now, I'm not telling you to choose big gun. If you want to choose a little 380 LCP and carry that every day, great. You're ready for 98% of all things that could possibly happen to you, and I applaud you because you're carrying a gun. But if you want to be a little more prepared, it doesn't take a lot of work. It doesn't take a lot of effort to find a gun that can actually get the job done through hard barriers and through plate glass and automotive glass. And I worry more about a round being effective through things like that than I do having 30 ineffective rounds in my gun. So go out, find a gun that suits all your needs, and if you can, take that into account. Take into account the modern world we live in and things that might happen to you. Now, of course, the main thing you're going to take in this modern world is we live in a very safe world, and you're probably never going to need it to begin with, so a lot of this is all moot because you'll never probably need your gun. But on that off chance that you ever need it, I want my gun to be as capable as possible, and I bet you would too.